So I want to welcome everybody to today's show. I have Janet Josephson, and she is with Autism at Sea. And we're going to talk together about autism on the seas, what they accomplish, and the challenges that autistic families face. So, Janet, you want to give us a little bit of your background and tell us about autism on the seas and how you help?
Absolutely. So thanks, Ken. So my name is Dr. Janet Josephson. I'm actually a special education professor at a university in Pennsylvania. And prior to that, I was a special education teacher in New York City and the Philadelphia area. I'm also a board certified behavior analyst. So all of those things combined are really what drove my passion to get involved in an organization like Autism on the Seas. I've been with Autism on the Seas for several years now. I started, as most folks do, as a staff member, a volunteer staff member. And then I was asked to work as a volunteer group leader. So I guess a little bit of background about Autism on the Seas is we are essentially a travel agency, and our job is to provide vacations, mostly cruises, but also resort stays for adults and families who are living with autism and other related disabilities, whether those are developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities. We handle everything. We're able to provide support for guests with exceptionalities at age 3 and up. So I've seen some of our guests as young as 3 who've benefited from our services. And I've also worked with adults in their 40s and 50s who have needed our services as well. It's such a huge diversity of needs. Our goal ultimately is to make sure that the family has their best vacation experience ever. So the organization Autism on the Seas, or AOTS as we call it, was founded in 2007 by our founder, Mike Sibel. He'd been in the travel agency business for quite some time and realized that there was really a need to support exceptional youth and adults on vacations. And so he started working, I believe, with several cruise lines. Predominantly, we work with Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, but we also have cruises offered with other cruise lines, Disney, for example. And so he started very small with a small group of families that mentioned that they needed a little bit of support, and quickly the sizes and the popularity of these trips really grew. And now AOTS has a sort of a name across the nation. It's just a really wonderful, wonderful company. So what sets us apart is that every one of our resort stays or cruises is staffed by a single volunteer group leader like myself, who sort of acts as the facilitator and the overseer of all of the events that week. And then we also provide volunteer direct care staff, typically one staff member for every 2 individuals with an exceptionality. And our volunteers come from all over the US, and more recently we're getting volunteers outside of the US, which is awesome because we're starting to see more families travel outside of the US. A lot of our families choose to have a one-on-one volunteer, which basically gives them a little bit more flexibility. So for example, if that family likes to have breakfast at 10 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. when the whole group has breakfast, their one-on-one volunteer could support them at breakfast at 10 a.m. when the whole group is maybe moved on to a different activity. So we do have those buffers built in for added flexibility. Most of our volunteers are special education professionals. They could be special education teachers, behavior technicians. I've even worked with some pediatric physical therapists who are really helpful when we have guests with mobility challenges that we need to address. We've even got bilingual support staff. I've worked with staff who are proficient in sign language, which many of our guests may use sign language to communicate. And it's just wonderful when all of these volunteer professionals with so much expertise from so many different areas can come together to provide support for the whole family. We go through the same kinds of screenings that any volunteer in a school would go through. We have a full background screening, a full interview process prior to being contracted for a cruise or a resort stay. And we essentially, we provide support from the moment that families get on board or meet us at the resort till the moment they leave. It's total care the whole time, even if it's the middle of the night and we have a need to assist a family. We're just a phone call away or a text message away, and we're there to support. And that puts a lot of our families really at ease because they have a lot of concerns when they go into vacationing for the first time, often with their children or their adults.
Okay, so I did want to ask this question because I noticed that there are several things that you do. You said you meet them at the resort. So, what are some of the things that you do when you do meet the families to help them get off to a good start?
Absolutely. So before the families even, arrive on day one, whether that's at the port or at the resort itself, um, the group leader is in touch with the family, with each family. Some group leaders, depending on the makeup of the group that they're supporting that week, some of us might hold sort of a pre-conference where we have like a video conference with all of the families. Some of us may choose to call each family individually. Some of us may choose to have individual family conferences. The bottom line is, the group leader is not a stranger to families at that first point of contact. They've already had some form of communication from us. In order for us to best support our families, we ask them to fill out a really detailed questionnaire about their exceptional children, but also a questionnaire about their typically developing siblings who might also be traveling with them so that we can provide care again to the whole family. So we get quite a bit of information from those questionnaires. Of course, when you read about someone and then you're meeting them, there are still some differences, but there's really important information that we need to know up front. Like, for example, is there a food allergy that we need to know about? Right? Because if we're working with individuals who are non-vocal and pretty unfamiliar to us, that's a really important thing to know on day one on a cruise ship, because the very first thing they do is we go to the buffet. So we need to know right away what the guest can and cannot have. And so, we get a lot of information from that. But the first evening that we actually spend with our families is really key, because we actually sit down and have information sessions with each family. So the group leader and a staff member will sit with the family while the other volunteers occupy maybe the siblings. And we will have a 15 to 20-minute conversation about any questions or any unanticipated challenges that the family is now facing from the very minute that they arrive, because we want to make sure that we can correct that or that we can do whatever's possible to make the rest of their week go smoother. Day one is really chaotic, right? We're all traveling to this location, we're having a change of environment, we're in crowds for a lot of the time. It's really high stress for any traveler, but especially for someone who's traveling with an exceptional son or daughter who, has some other needs, right?
Right. Okay. And so while you're on during the cruise or during the time in the resorts, what are some of the other things that you can do to help?
Absolutely. All right. So, well, one of the things that we do for our families is we provide respite, which is essentially time for us to provide direct care to their son or daughter. That is often so valuable to these families because they are in a new environment and they need a break. And so we typically offer respite services to our families after lunch for a couple of hours and after dinner for a couple of hours. So that's a really strong incentive for families to travel with us, because they are leaving their children in the care of probably the most qualified group of individuals who are not really fazed by any sort of surprise behavior or any surprise challenges. We kind of look at those as opportunities to put all of our brains together and problem solve to come up with a system that works. So that's a huge incentive for families because that is sort of built into their trip that they're going to have anywhere from 2 to sometimes 5 hours of respite on a given day, depending on if we are in a port that day or if it's a sea day. We also have private excursions with our families. So we will work with the locals in the various places that we visit. And we will plan like private beach excursions, for example, where we have a little area of the beach that we call ourselves Team Orange, that's the shirt. Team Orange will sort of gather in one specific area. Staff will circle the perimeter and maintain their eyes and focus on the families and assist with getting our guests food or getting our guests into the water, swimming with them. Even little things like, mom just needs to run to the restroom for a minute. A couple of staff members can sit with their son or daughter who's resting so that, mom or dad can go use the restroom. We provide expedited embarkation when we're talking about cruises. So we're one of the first ones to get on the cruise ship. We get on with those high level folks who have all the cruise points and who are frequent travelers. And that allows our families to not have to sit in a waiting area and wait. Because for so many individuals with exceptionalities, that period of waiting is an opportunity for behavior that perhaps we don't want to see, especially in public. It can create a really high stress environment for everyone who witnesses it, who experiences it. We also will assist at the pool time. So at our resorts and on our cruise ships, we have pools available and we will assist, we will get in the water, we will help with changing, we will help with whatever families need at that time to get their kids in the pool. Even if that means just giving mom or dad or brother a break for 15 minutes and saying, why don't you go get a snack and, we'll be right here if the snack bar is, within an eye shot of where we are. So it's just, it's really like helping them, giving them extra hands to make sure that they can really have what they signed up for, which was a vacation, right? We're there to kind of be that intermediate person and help them with anything that they need. And ideally, our families don't even have to ask us for help. We should really get to know our families well enough that we can see when there's a moment where there's an opportunity to help so that families don't ever have to ask us for help. We just jump on it constantly, which I think our families find really valuable and really beneficial to their relaxation.
Okay. And I see one more thing. What about if there's some kind of event going on?
So there's a lot of programming that goes on, both at the resorts and on the cruise ships. So we will actually host, we will get our own private area for any of the like shows or the special events that are being held. So we will get some reserved seating so that our families are located ideally near an exit, near a bathroom, because we want to give them the extra flexibility to be able to come and go as they want to those events without feeling bad, without feeling like they're interrupting the person next to them. So we arrange with the event staff to get our own special area to sit. It's roped off. One of our volunteers is always there flagging the parents down to make sure that they get in and get their seats. Likewise, if the facility that we're visiting has, let's say bumper cars, right? We have many cruise ships that we visit have bumper cars. We actually get private venue sessions on the bumper cars. So that is really beneficial to our families because we don't have to worry about a really huge crowd of people. We are surrounded by others who understand that there might be a meltdown, there might be a difficult behavior that happens. We might have trouble, talking a 6-year-old out of getting out of the bumper cars and letting them know that we're all done. And the families find a lot of solace in the fact that everyone else at this activity right now understands exactly what I'm going through. And, because it can be really hard, right? And a lot of our families, that's also something that they struggle with is like, I don't want to ruin someone else's vacation. So we do everything we can to make them feel, like we're our own community. We even eat dinner together. Like we eat all of our meals together in a roped off area, whether that's the breakfast buffet, lunch, or dinner in one of the main dining rooms. Um, we have our own little area that we sit in. Our wait staff meet with the AOTS staff ahead of time to learn a little bit about our guests and their dietary needs. And some of these places are really fantastic. If we have guests traveling who maybe have an aversion to, let's say, music and clapping, right? And celebrations, which if you've ever cruised, a lot of that goes on. The waiters come out, they're singing, they're dancing. Some of our guests have aversions to that kind of change in the environment. And so our wait staff work with us to, they'll close the doors so that we don't hear the celebration happening. Or they'll come over and tell us there's a birthday happening over there. There's going to be singing in about 5 minutes. So we'll know, we'll take our friend out for a little walk around the deck to avoid that situation. So it really is like an awesome, awesome partnership between, volunteers and the crew and the families telling us what they need from us. It's pretty amazing, really is.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been doing accessibility interviews with most of the cruise lines, and the one thing that I didn't realize is how much effort all of the cruise lines seem to put in. Well, actually, there's been a couple of exceptions, but those are exceptions where the cruise lines deal primarily with older people. So there are a couple of cruise lines that are notorious for, their average age of their passengers north of 60. And so they have less training on dealing with autism, but all the mainstream, Carnival, NCL, Royal Caribbean, Princess, all of them have a lot of training for their crew on how to deal with it. It was interesting for me that several of them have ways, either with lanyards or with devices that identify to their staff members that the person that they're meeting or in close to has some kind of challenge that might cause unexpected behaviors, and we'll include in that Alzheimer's, dementia. There's a lot of different kinds of things, and so, like I said, I was surprised at the effort that goes in, from the cruise lines. Okay, so I have a couple of questions that I know people ask, and so I'll ask them and I'll let you answer me. The first one is, my child elopes often. And in this case, I don't think you mean they run away to get married. And this worries me. So how can Autism on the Seas help?
Sure. So, yeah, unfortunately, not too many of us are running off to get married these days on a cruise ship. But a lot of our families are concerned with elopement, which is running away, right? And it can be running away to water, running away to avoid a situation. It can be running away to get out a burst of energy. And, a lot of our families know that their son or daughter engages in elopement. So we, as a team, we specifically ask in our questionnaires and our information sessions about a child's propensity to elope and what might that look like, what might trigger that. That's so that we can ideally be proactive. We also keep portable door alarms with us. They're really small magnetic alarms that when they are disconnected, they make a really loud sound. They can be set to a doorbell sound or a full-on siren alarm sound. We use those in our respite rooms, because often the conference room or the room that they give us for our daily respite sessions has multiple doors. And so not only do we put a staff member at each door to limit and basically prohibit anyone from going out without being noticed, but we also affix an alarm to the door. We offer those alarms to our families as well for their cabins. It has happened that we've had families say, my son or my daughter sleepwalks, and I'm a heavy sleeper and I'm nervous that they're going to leave the cabin in the middle of the night. So we provide that to them. We have along with putting staff at the doors in each venue that we are in, we have specific like security procedures in place for whenever we are transitioning one of our guests from one place to another. So that means if we have a guest who needs to use the restroom at any time, it could be at dinner, we have a 2-person minimum rule. 2 staff members need to walk with that individual to the bathroom, assist as needed, and walk them back. We also ensure that staff have a way of communicating all the time. So whether that's through a messaging app on the cruise line particular app, whether that is using WhatsApp, if that's using iMessage, whatever that looks like, every staff member has to have a way of communicating so that, let's say there was an incident along the way. We don't want those 2 staff members to be without communication. They need to be able to notify for more backup. Maybe we even need to notify the family member that, hey, we could really use your help. Your son or daughter is having a little bit of a tough time right now. Could you help us? That's a last resort effort for us. We really like to try to handle it as staff, but sometimes, they just need like a hug or a high five from, dad, and that will kind of lift their spirits and get them back into dinner, for example. So, we do a really great job of, what we call like perimeter security. You'll see it at the pool. You'll see everybody in their orange pool shirts, and there will be several of us who are standing and fixated on the perimeter of the pool, while there are another several volunteers in the pool. And anytime a guest of ours with an exceptionality makes their way to the ladder towards the stairs, instantly there's 2 staff there ready to either redirect them back into the pool or find out what they need and go with them and assist them with that. So that is a big concern, but we handle this really, really well. And, when you were talking about cruise lines offering special lanyards and things for families so that they can be recognized, we use orange lanyards for our families. And we also provide our exceptional guests with a little business card to sort of tuck it into their lanyard where they would put their room key. And it essentially says, like, I have exceptional needs, please contact, and it will have the group leader. So if it's me, it will have my name and my contact information so that if that kiddo is found wandering, the staff on the cruise ship can actually let me know that they have found one of our guests, and I will deploy staff members to go assist. So they're then being assisted by familiar faces, which can help reduce the likelihood of a behavioral episode, right? So we definitely do a lot, and it's not uncommon for our guests to want to elope, but we are ready for that, and we have lots of protocols in place to work with it.
Okay, well, very nice. This kind of sounds expensive. So how can a family afford this?
Yeah, so we have a really wonderful foundation. Autism on the Seas has what's known as the Autism on the Seas Foundation. And that foundation does various things throughout the year to generate funds. And essentially, families can work with the AOTS Foundation to get some financial assistance. It's basically an application process, and families have, that option. I've actually traveled with a family who was a foundation recipient, and there were 2 members of the family that traveled, and they said that they would not have been able to travel had they not had that assistance. There's also, if you've ever heard of things like GoFundMe or Kickstarter, all of these sort of social media campaigns, we also have something called Go Cruise Me. And that's basically an online fundraising campaign. And families, when they learn that they are going to take a cruise with AOTS, they can create their own Go Cruise Me account and share that in their own personal social media. And it's also really awesome because our staff can use that too. Even though our staff are volunteering, the cost of their actual cruise or resort stay is covered, but our volunteer staff pay to get themselves to port.
Yeah.
They pay their tips, they pay their gratuities. So, staff are paying to serve families. And so this is another way for our staff to also offset those financial responsibilities.
Okay. And I will ask this off after the show. If you'll give me links, I'll make sure that those go in the video for both of those. And I will try to share them for you to see if we can get the word out that if you're not, if you don't deal with these challenges, but you want to help families that do, there'll be an opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful.
Okay. So where do you travel?
Oh, so we really travel all over. Our popular resort stays right now tend to be at Disney World. And we've also started partnering with the beaches resorts. As we're sort of coming out of a pandemic as of the time of this interview. And so a lot of our travel has been halted, but it is starting to pick up. We do have cruises. I'm most familiar with the cruising aspect of Autism on the Seas. We started just a couple years ago having some European cruises, but we also cruise locally out of New Jersey, Texas, Florida, Massachusetts, Maryland, Puerto Rico, and Washington for our Alaska cruises. Those are a lot of the cruises currently on the books. And the Bahamas also is a recent port that we are traveling out of as a way to sort of get cruising back in business. So most of our families are able to find something that fits for them. We do have limited cruises out of California as well. So for our West Coasters, California and Washington are definitely options for them, but certainly a lot out of the South and the Northeast.
Okay. Very nice. So if a family wants to take a trip, but the trip they want to take is not listed on AOTS's schedule, is there any option for them?
Oh, absolutely. So another link that I'll share with you is a link to our Autism on the Seas community page. It's a Facebook group, and a lot of families will see a cruise on a cruise line's website, and the dates just work for them. And so they'll actually go into the community board and post, hey everyone, my family and I are looking at this cruise out of this port on these days. Would anyone else like to attend? We have 2 cabins. So what we need is we need a 4-cabin commitment in order to provide staff. So once families have a 4-cabin commitment, they then contact the Autism on the Seas office. We get that added to our schedule, provided that we have staff and group leaders available for that cruise. And that is, definitely a possibility. In the rare occasion that we can't get the cruise staffed, we can work with the cruise line to provide some tips about accessibility and about some of the unique needs that these families may have. And, so some families will choose to book through Autism on the Seas, but they'll do an unstaffed cruise just to sort of maybe try it out. And then it's almost like once they do a staffed cruise, they never go back, because it's like, we'll get you your drink, we'll help you with your kiddos, we'll do anything you need. So, once you have that help, you never really want to go back, right?
No, I understand that exactly. And though I will say, again, the one for families that can't make an AOTS cruise, like I said, Princess, Carnival, Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, all really work hard to help families that travel, that have children with special needs, or have family members with special needs outside of the autism. So don't hesitate to reach out to the provider that you're thinking about traveling on. Ask them, ideally you're working with a travel agent that has some expertise in the area, but you want to make sure that you ask what they can help with, what you need to know, because like I said, I was just been blown away by the extent they go to help passengers that travel with challenges.
Absolutely. And, when you talk about like accessibility, one of the things that kind of comes to mind is also the fact that how we define accessibility in the US looks really different than how accessibility is defined in a lot of the places that we may travel to. And the majority of, onboard crew, Autism on the Sea staff, like that's where we can come in also to really provide a lot of additional support to families. And it's really interesting, seeing how aware our travel partners are now of other needs, right? Not everybody is going to get from point A to point B on the ship by using their legs. And so thinking of accessible routes for them to take. And same thing for, someone enjoying the beach, right? If someone's using a wheelchair for transportation, there are beach wheelchairs, but, we need to make sure that our travel partners understand the need to have a beach wheelchair ready at the destination so that that individual can truly enjoy their day.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was on MSC Cruise Lines in March, the right before everything shut down, and the one thing that I was interested to see was where the ship docks at their private island. They had a whole bunch of beach wheelchairs lined up right there. They were readily accessible, so you didn't have to go somewhere on the island with your regular wheelchair and get it. Though it is interesting, I was with another cruise line and we got near the water with the beach wheelchair, and all of a sudden everybody starts yelling at us, "You can't go in the water." I'm like, okay, beach wheelchair, water.
Yeah.
If you can't walk, how do you get from the beach to the water? But anyway,
Right.
that's kind of another point. But like I said, it is interesting.
Mhm.
Again. So let me ask this: what's a typical sea day like for a group of passengers that are traveling with autism on the seas?
Okay. So with the exception of, day one, which is embarkation day and sort of has a strange, unique vibe to it anyway, a typical sea day would be something like this. Staff with AOTS would assist at breakfast from about 8 to 9 a.m. And then from there, we transition to the pool and we would provide assisted pool time. So our parents and guardians would be at the pool with their children. And we would provide assistance as needed, probably until around 10:30 or so. After pool, we might have a little bit of a break, perhaps some quiet. A lot of families like to go back to the cabin and have a little bit of quiet downtime, get changed, get into dry clothes for the day. And then they'll meet us at lunch around 12 o'clock. And typically our staff will support at lunch from 12 o'clock until 1 o'clock. By now, everyone's pretty exhausted because we've been eating, we've been swimming, maybe we did some other fun things on board. At that point, families get their break. They have the opportunity to sign their sons and daughters in to our care at respite. And that will typically be a 2-hour block in the afternoons. So let's say like 1:30 to 3:30. After that, if we're on a ship and there are onboard activities, let's say one of our ships has ice skating, we might have a 30 or 60-minute private session of ice skating, which would be open to anyone in our AOTS group, and our staff would go along for that. That might be from, say, 4 to 5. And then we're talking about dinner. Dinner can run from about 5:30 until about 7 o'clock. Those times, all of these times fluctuate based on the cruise line and the specific itinerary of the cruise line. But in general, we like to get first dinner. We like to, get first dinner and then from there offer more respite, maybe from 7:30 to 9:30 at night. And then that's basically, the end of our day. Many of our families will be interested in some of the onboard programming. For example, there might be a comedian that night. So they might request our assistance with babysitting in the cabin. We call it babysitting, but it's cabin care. It may be that their son or daughter is just going to go to sleep. It may be that their son or daughter really doesn't sleep. And so it's about keeping them safe for a couple hours while, their family goes out and enjoys, the comedian show that's happening.
Okay.
And when we offer that, that's a separate sort of piece. We're sort of acting in the role of we're not really an Autism on the Sea volunteer because respite has ended, but we're a trusted person that you can trust with your son or daughter, and we're familiar to your son or daughter. So some of our staff will volunteer to do those kinds of things even after hours. And then, that's pretty much the routine of a sea day for us. And it's pretty awesome when we are on board a ship that has a lot of different activities, because we might be able to offer, a choice of activities like the rock wall or the bumper cars. And due to different mobility, behavioral, sensory needs, some of our guests might engage in both of those activities, one of them or none of them, in which case, we work to try to provide another alternative activity for them so that everybody gets to enjoy something during those time periods.
Okay. Well, very, very nice. So what about on shore excursions?
Okay, so shore excursion days are a little different. The day begins pretty much the same with breakfast. Typically, 8 a.m. is typically when we will meet for breakfast. And then we'll have a little short break for families to, go back to their cabin and collect their things for the beach. That might be cash for any, ferry tickets that they might need, or renting a beach umbrella, packing any snacks that they might want to bring, change of clothes, that sort of thing. And we actually, when the ship pulls into port, we are actually one of the priority groups to get off of the ship so that our families don't have to wait in a line. Because again, going back to what I said earlier, if our families have to wait, that's an opportunity for elopement, an opportunity for a behavior that maybe could be a little bit overstimulating for those that witness it. So we get off the ship sometimes as early as 9:30, 10 a.m. And we go meet whoever our local of the day is that is helping us secure a great spot on the beach. Often our group leaders have already been in touch with that person through a text message the night before and said, hey, we need 20 chairs and 10 umbrellas. Can you have it ready to go at 10? And they just have it ready to go, and they'll be there waving, waving to us, because they always know to look for the team orange. The minute they see us walking with our flag, they're flagging us down, letting us know who they are and leading us to the beach area, which is so appreciated. I mean, we couldn't do half of what we do without our local partners on the ground, who are just willing to help us every single time. After the beach excursion, that might wrap up around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Typically on a beach day, we give our staff a little bit of downtime afterwards. So some of our families might want some help getting back to the ship, and our staff will support them with that. And then staff have typically off until dinner time. So it's a nice opportunity for families to maybe go back to the ship and enjoy a quiet ship and do some of the onboard activities without crowds. It's also a fun opportunity for staff to get a little bit of relaxation time, whether that's sleeping, grabbing a meal together, just swimming without watching the perimeter. So it's a nice balance, and it's important that we have our volunteers well rested so that they can provide the best level of care, again, back in the evening when we start again with dinner and evening respite.
Okay, so I'm going to throw a question at you that you may not be expecting, but what about non-beach ports? So we talked about some of the other places you go, so like Alaska or something.
Mm-hmm.
Are there things that how would you work how would you deal with a port day then?
Absolutely. I have not actually had a chance to go on an Alaskan cruise yet. I'm hoping very soon to staff one of them. But there are still excursions that are planned in Alaska. I'm actually thinking back to, I spoke with someone who went on a cruise that hit Boston in April. So we're not doing the beach in Boston in April. Yeah. But they actually arranged like a duck tour. They did the duck tours, and that was kind of the excursion of the day, was like a tour of like Faneuil Hall and going on the duck tours. And our staff was able to support the families on that particular trip. We have some ports in Canada. Again, Canada in March, April, we're not swimming, we're not going to the beach. So there are a lot of land excursion opportunities that, and all of our group leaders, we keep a shared spreadsheet where we input notes about local people on the ground who were really supportive of us, phone numbers of those contacts, places that we recommend. So as soon as I get contracted for a cruise, I look at the ports, and then I look at that spreadsheet to figure out who do I need to contact in each of these cities, and what trips are recommended that we plan. And then, we just magically somehow always manage to make it happen.
Okay, well, very nice. So you got them covered no matter what kind of port you're in.
Absolutely.
So one other question for you: if somebody's traveling and they need to get a hold of the staff on the cruise, how do they get a hold of you?
So typically the group leader is the main contact in the event that a family needs to get in touch with us. So there's a few ways this can happen. The group leader is always accessible by some kind of messaging app, whether that's the cruise ship's app, or whether it's something like WhatsApp, which is you've got to have internet for that to run. And that allows then the group leader to be able to deploy staff as needed. So for example, if I'm sort of tied up in one situation that needs my immediate attention, if I get a message from a family, that says, we're having trouble getting so-and-so out of the buffet, can someone come help us? I can send out a really quick message to staff and say, hey, who's near the buffet? The blank family needs help with their daughter getting out. Could someone go? And so we are very much in contact. Like, our communication, I always say, is our strength. We're constantly in contact. The ships also have like ship phones, and I will always have either a pager, some of us still have a cruise pager, or a cruise ship phone. And families can contact us through any one of the landline phones that are plugged into the walls of the ship. I mean, for lack of a better term, is it a sea line? I don't know. But they'll contact us, and we will get that call. So if they're having an issue, say, in their cabin, they can just pick up the phone in their cabin and call me, and I can deploy staff from there. So, we have to think a little differently about how we communicate on a ship, because the internet is not always strong. And, some families, they truly want to get away for the week, and they don't want to have internet and technology. So we think about communication in a number of ways. And one of the first questions we ask families before even getting to the port for embarkation is, what method of communication is going to work for us if we need you and if you need us? And sometimes some families say, they just bite the bullet and say, you know what, we'll get internet. We really like the idea of being able to just send you a text and get help immediately.
Yeah, I would say, and a lot of the ships now have a Shipboard app that you can use the internet without having to pay for it. So that's pretty handy as well. And I think we'll see more and more of those kinds of things. There's some kind of very interesting technology on the horizon for cruise ships. I think about Princess Medallion class is a good example. And I am sure that all of the other cruise lines are working on their versions of those kinds of support facilities. So that's pretty handy.
Absolutely. We traveled with, I did a Carnival cruise a couple of years ago, and, their messaging app was amazing. I just needed to input the family's last name and cabin number, and I was able to add them to a group message. So, if I remember one day there was actually inclement weather and the pool shut down. So I was able to quickly get the message out to the entire group that the pool was shut down and we would be doing an alternative activity. And, because I wanted to save families the trouble of going all the way back to their cabin, getting their pool gear, and coming and being disappointed, right? So, communication is so important, and we do our best to really make sure we're doing it efficiently.
All right. Well, very nice. Janet, I have appreciated your time today. For those that are still here at the end of this video, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I always love it when people do. But what you'll find is in the comments, there are links to the Go Cruise Me website, to the foundation website, some other contact information, where the Facebook group is, so that you can get a hold of this wonderful organization And if you want to support them, you'll have the opportunity to do that. If you can benefit from this service, you'll know how to get a hold of them. And if you have any questions, you can post them in the comments, and I will make sure that Janet sees them, and we can try to find you answers. So again, thanks for watching.
Take care.